Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so we got a 4-game slate of playoff basketball to look at today. This is the opening day of the NBA playoffs 2023. And last year, I was able to cover each and every game of the playoffs, all of them, excluding none of them. And I know for a fact I ain't going to have the time to do that this year. If you guys are following me, you know that I definitely got things all up in the air in regards to my situation. So if I'm able to even do the Lakers stuff, that'll be awesome because that's how tight time is going to be this summer. But nevertheless, today we got a couple games to discuss, and I think it's going to be a good slate of games. I really do. You start off with Philly, Brooklyn, got Atlanta, Boston, New York, Cleveland, and Golden State Sac. And I've talked about all of those series. I've left predictions for all of those series, but I'll recap what I think, and if anything's been updated, I'll let you know. It's one of those situations where I made my prediction just off of whim, not a lot of homework done. It wasn't like I was following these teams all season long, rather, like I did my Lakers. I will tell you guys that the most homework I've done on the league as a whole is basically anytime the Lakers play anybody, I'm watching anybody who plays us. And so that has allowed me to see the league's highlights more or less. That's kind of how that works. But as far as watching teams in detail, nobody but the Lakers. So if I'm wrong, or if you know I'm wrong and you're laughing, that's because I just don't watch y'all. Now, if I'm wrong about the Lakers, we got a problem because I watch them entirely close. But as far as Atlanta and these teams, from afar, distant far at that. So I'll do my best. But the first game that we're talking about is the Philadelphia 76ers and the Brooklyn Nets. Now, because we're talking about just one game, it changes my entire point of view in regards to maybe what my prediction is. Because just because you win the first game don't mean you're going to win the series or even another game again in the series. So let that being said, before I make my predictions on this particular slate of games. First game up, Brooklyn, Philly. Game one of this series, fill out game. Obviously, the game is in Philadelphia. And there's a lot of interesting storylines that are not necessarily going to be explored. Ben Simmons, for example. None of us are really actually thinking about this, I don't think, except for the people in Brooklyn and Philly. But this is a massive series as Ben Simmons is playing and healthy. This is probably the most important series in the entire league if Ben Simmons is healthy, just because of the energy surrounding that player and ultimately how messy the whole situation got in the end. Things were said. Guys looked at each other a certain way. Guys disappeared for a whole year without pay. Like, that whole thing is big. That's not minor between these two franchises. Those two teams are going at it. And nobody's going to even talk about that because Ben Simmons is out for the season and has been basically a lesser role player all season long. So his star power has been diminished, but not his fame and not the vitriol that Philadelphia has versus Brooklyn. Meanwhile, the other side of that, James Harden left Brooklyn. Some could argue he ruined Brooklyn by doing so. Now, granted, a lot of things led up to why he would leave, including the Kyrie Irving situation and all this other stuff. So stuff had to happen in order for James Harden to want to get out of there. But at the end of the day, he did skedaddle. And if he wouldn't have, they'd still be a contender, I think. So this is a situation where I'm pretty sure they're mad at him. I'm pretty sure he's happy to have left there. I'm pretty sure he would love to stick it to them. No love lost, I don't imagine. Brooklyn has revamped basically their entire team. But still have Claxton, who I think is the future of that team. They picked up Bridges, who's also going to be the future. Cam Johnson, I have wonders about his health, but he's a heck of a player. Spencer Dinwiddie, who we know is a high-level role player, who plays above that most of the time. Sort of like Dennis Schroeder. You look at guys like Cam Thomas, who has so much upside, it's blinding, but they just can't seem to get enough out of him for whatever reason. Maybe it's defensive issues, maybe it's continuity issues, maybe it's just he's not consistent. I don't know. But when he goes. And he stays up. And I just think it's a dang shame that they can't seem to get the most out of that particular player. Royce O'Neal's been playing fantastic ball ever since they traded for him. I've been killing the trade. I still think that was one of the worst trades ever, but I also think he's played fantastic for the Nets. Two things can exist at the same time. Hell no, you shouldn't trade a first-round pick for Royce O'Neal, and yes, Brooklyn Nets are better for having him. Two things that are just true. Also, you guys know, if you follow me enough in regards to the Dallas Mavericks last year. You know, I'm very high on Dorian Finney-Smith. I would not have traded Kyrie Irving for Dorian Finney-Smith. I wouldn't have did that. I know Kyrie's expiring. I can get that 36, but there's no other defense on the Dallas Mavericks at all. And he was one of the best defensive players in that conference, in my opinion. Dorian Finney-Smith is an underrated Swiss Army knife who, on top of what is already in Brooklyn with Bridges, Johnson, and ultimately Watabi, so many other guys, Claxton, Bridges, all of these guys, you throw him in that mix and you just got a wildly consistent bunch of Swiss Army knife forwards, basically the best ones you can find. Brooklyn brought them all to them. So yes, they sent out a bunch of superstars, but they brought back some very valuable assets that are desired in this league right now. Wings. They went and got some of the best ones. And so, like Royce O'Neal, give me him. Dorian Finney-Smith, give me him. Cam and Bridges, give me them. You know, it's like, whoa, all four of them guys should be players that the entire league should want individually. And they slapped them all together. So I love that to no end. And I want people to understand how much I love that. I don't like Brooklyn. I don't like what they did. But if any team did that, I'd have been like, that's just my preference and stuff. I think you can win that way if you bring a star to that situation. And don't overpay who you have, but don't let them leave either. Keep those forwards, keep Claxton together, and then just try to find stuff to bring to that. And hopefully you can get lucky if Cam can pop. You can turn him into a star or bring you a continuity point guard like a Drew Holiday or something like that to make it all come together. They have some shooting that I think is at a premium as well. Players that I think will help them in this series. And if they play well enough, they should probably consider trading in the offseason. Joe Harris, Curry, Seth Curry. These are fantastic shooters that are going to have value if they have good playoffs. And they should want to get rid of those guys to a degree because they have shooting is needed. You want that. But they're also going to want to pay those other guys. And it would probably be in their best interest to keep those other guys because you can find shooters. You can find shooters, and shooters are expensive. A Curry guy is going to be expensive. Harris's contract is inflated. So if I were Brooklyn, I would want to feature those guys in this series. Obviously, with Curry playing against the Philadelphia 76ers, you want him on the floor anyway, having played there. And with that being said, I do believe if they play well and they stay healthy going into the offseason, somebody's going to want them too. Somebody's going to want one of them at least. For sure, and I think that can get the Brooklyn Nets some returnable assets that can overall booster what it is that they are, which is a defensive team. And with that being said, there is reasons to be concerned if you're the Philadelphia 76ers. For one, with all due respect, although I don't really like this guy as a coach, Doc Rivers. The statement was, I don't really like him as a coach, and I think he can be a legitimate liability. I've seen him more than once, especially in the playoffs. He can legitimately be a liability. So if he does things the wrong way, it can cost him in this series. Obviously, Joel Embiid is going to be Joel Embiid. He's turned into a very durable player after starting his career as somebody who couldn't stay on the floor for whatever reason. It worked out. He's an MVP, probably the MVP of the season this year. And you expect him to play upwards of 38 minutes a night and dominate. And if he's himself, he just basically can overpower almost the entire team, more or less, the Brooklyn Nets. And that's just really what it is there. And then you look at James Harden, who's going to be inspired, as I said, against Brooklyn. Tyrese Maxey, who didn't start the season healthy, but should be rounding into form right now. Tobias Harris, who's had a really good season. Picking up Jalen McDaniels from Charlotte was a big deal. I love that piece for them this year. I think he's going to be a main piece to offset some of the mistakes that may be out there or some of the weaknesses that they've had last year. Without the piece. Then you got DeAnthony Melton, who's turned into one of the best steals guys in the league. I didn't know that until I was just staring at the stats yesterday. He's like 5th in the league in steals or 4th in the league in steals. Much improved player from out here in LA. You got Shake Milton, who's also a player on that bench that I think could be pretty valuable as a guard. Furkan Korkmaz. So I like Philadelphia's team to a degree, but you start getting back there and you don't really know if you're going to see the depth necessary to kind of overpower what it is that the field will provide. But as far as Brooklyn's concerned, it's just going to really be that same dynamic as I told you guys before that Toronto had last year against Philadelphia. Hopefully, for their sake, they'll do a better job than Toronto did. But it's really that same kind of thing. You just got a bunch of 6'8", 6'10" wing guys that play defense, a little offense, who are just going to be trying to surround Joel Embiid and try to make things as difficult for him as possible. Obviously, Claxton is sharp. They're going to try to make life very hard for Joel Embiid, and if they're able to pull that off, they might be able to get a couple games out of this thing. But ultimately, if the depth doesn't falter with the Philadelphia 76ers, if they're able to really do damage with that front 8, front 7, then this series will probably go as predicted in about 5 games. So with a game like tonight, Philadelphia getting the first draw, it's really no way of knowing it's a fill-out game. So it can go a million different ways. And so with fill-out games, you just tend to lean toward the team that has the home court advantage with the best player on the floor. For the first game, I think that's just an easy way to kind of predict. But looking at the matchups, I just think at the end of the day, Philadelphia is going to have Joel on the floor. And with that being said, there should be nobody there who can stop him. I think Claxton needs to play at a very, very, very high level on both sides of the floor, pretty much trying to mirror what Joel is ultimately going to do. And then you got to look at Bridges and say, if Bridges could continue being that superstar type of player that he's been since becoming a Brooklyn Net, scoring like 30 a game, stuff like that, if he can do that, that presents a dynamic within this situation that I don't think Philly really wants to deal with. Is him playing at a high level, something like a KD or something. They don't need that. And I expect him to try, if not pull that off. So the more efficient Bridges is, I think the better chance Brooklyn has of taking a game or two. Whatever game he's balling out in is probably the game that you feel that they can really, really overcome. But at the end of the day, it's Philly, it's Joel, and I don't see any reason for them not to win this series. Not really. The matchups are a little funny, but that superstar upside with Joel is just too much. It should be too much. So I'm gonna go Philly in the first game, home game. They'll draw first blood in this one. All right, the next game we'll look at Atlanta and Boston. And as I told you guys yesterday, even though I literally forgot what I was saying in the middle of the video and I contradicted that just out of sheer forgetfulness, but the reality is I do think Boston is in a very, very tricky situation with the matchups with Atlanta, because Atlanta is a optical illusion. Everything you've known about Atlanta isn't the same because now they have a healthy front court for basically the first time in 2 years. They never have a combination of Collins, Okongwu, and the rest of their centers, Johnson, Capella. Those guys are never healthy at the same time. Never. It's always one or two of them missing, and it always affects how ultimately deep the Atlanta Hawks are going to be. I do think they should utilize AJ Griffin. He's already won 2 games at the buzzer this season, and I don't think they've used him enough in the second half. I don't know what happened with the coaching change in regards to Quinn Snyder, but he needs to use AJ Griffin. Don't have him buried in the back of the bench just because you have other guys to play. Play him too. It's one of those situations where I look at him, Bogey, Hunter, Sadiq Bey. That's a lot of forwards that are going to be thrown at the Boston Celtics. And I don't think they can beat the Boston Celtics because I think the Boston Celtics are just going to play better. But I do believe Atlanta is a deeper team. I think Atlanta has overall more talent from top to bottom. They do. Once you start getting on the back of the bench of the Boston Celtics with Blake Griffin and Cornette and some of them dudes with Gallinari just completely missing, that really does take away from the fullness of that team. And that's not a good thing going up against a team like Atlanta, who basically has a bunch of young upside guys on their bench who've already developed enough to be useful, and then a bunch of stars in their starting lineup. You know what I mean? And so it's like if Capella and Collins are out like they always are, then you can kind of look at the Atlanta Hawks like you always do. But with those two being there, and if they get in foul trouble or something, now you got Okongwu stepping in, now you got Johnson playing better, now you got Bogey coming off the bench, Sadiq Bey's in there somewhere, DeAndre Hunter's in there somewhere, AJ Griffin's in there somewhere. It's just a lot of talent. It's a lot, man. It's a whole lot. And so when you look at DeJounte Murray, obviously Trae Young, my critique with Trae Young is just, man, can he just put his ego to the side and play team ball? Is it possible that he can just be one of the guys? Because if so, just like I say about LeBron in LA, if so, that team can overachieve because they have more talent than some of these teams that are better than them. They just got more talent. And if their upside flexes on that bench, no lead is safe. If Jason Tatum gets in some type of foul trouble, rolls an ankle, this series is in jeopardy. So this is that type of series. If JT Money's JT Money, Jaylen Brown with the hand, if he's 100% healthy, Marcus Smart got to play well. You know what I mean? They're going to need Brogdon. He's going to have to play well, which he has been. He's healthy, which is a big deal. How healthy will he be throughout the playoffs will also determine how much faith I have in Boston, because if for some reason he goes down, that's a problem. Derek White, how well is he going to play? Al Horford, is he still where he's always been, or is he going to start going over the hill? It's questions. Grant Williams, is he going to step up in the playoffs? He's had a crappy season. You know, these are all things that I'm not sure about with the Boston Celtics. Robert Williams, is he healthy? Is he 100%? If so, is he going to stay that way? That's going to determine a lot about the Celtics. So with the Celtics comes a lot of experience, a lot of capability. Rookie coach in Mazzulla, who I think is pretty good. I don't believe in their health as much as I need to believe in it to be as confident that they're going to win the championship as everybody is. I'm not. That's my problem with the Boston Celtics. They just have certain pieces on their team that I expect to get hurt at some point in time. Marcus Smart, I expect to get hurt. Robert Williams, I expect to get hurt. Brogdon, I expect to get hurt. Knock on wood, I don't want that. But, this is what it is. Al Horford's an older guy. These are guys that are not overly reliable to stay healthy. Derek White, we know Brockton Brogdon's injury prone as hell, man. He just happens to be healthy right now. But, I'm telling y'all, man, everything is on health. And we talk a lot about the Lakers' health. We talk a lot about these teams' health, this, that, and the third. Boston can't really afford a Marcus Smart rolled ankle or Robert Williams hurt knee. They can't. Not this year. They're not good as people believe they are when it comes to going up against these healthy young teams with a bunch of young players. A team like Atlanta, Okongwu comes in the game. He's going to make life hard on a guy like Al Horford. He's going to make life hard on a Blake Griffin. They ain't going to really want to keep those guys on the floor. And that's what I come to understand. They're going to need Brogdon and White. And, those guys are going to win them the series. I think those guys are going to win them the series. They got the Smart, Brogdon, White trio combination is a lot. That's a lot to deal with on both sides of the floor. That's what I will say. That's a lot to deal with. So, at the end of the day, I do favor Boston and their just overall Jason Tatum factor, Jaylen Brown factor. Those guys are the two best players, I think, in this series. But there's no guarantee that Trae Young won't go crazy, draw fouls. If he starts drawing fouls against people, that could be a problem, getting people in foul trouble. It's definitely a big thing for the Atlanta Hawks since the Celtics aren't as deep as them. And just overall, again, using the sum of your parts. If the Atlanta Hawks do too much with Trae Young, Trae and DeJounte shooting 15 shots a game and everybody else get in where they fit in, they're out of here in 5. They'll be lucky to win the game. And that's the way you expect the Hawks to play because they're the Hawks. But what I'm telling you is just the Hawks is a different team when that front court is healthy because what you got to deal with is rebounding, block shots, easy putbacks and stuff like that. That Robert Williams, Al Horford, Jason Tatum, Williams, those guys are going to be tasked with stopping. If they're able to stop that interior penetration of the Atlanta Hawks and render the Atlanta Hawks just a jump shooting team, they have good jump shooters, but they don't want to be rendered a jump shooting team. I think DeAndre Hunter is an important piece in this series because he's going to be somebody that I think is going to be talented enough defensively to try to throw at Jaylen Brown, try to throw at Jason Tatum at times. So if he can play his best self and continue to get in better shape, his upside is still there. The Hawks got so much talent, man. I cannot stress it enough. I mean, Sadiq Bey comes in after him. Griffin comes in after him. Johnson comes in. I mean, it's like the Celtics aren't that deep. Not as deep as the Hawks. So if this series extends, it favors the Hawks. The Celtics need to get this series out the way early. They need to get this series out of the way early. So I think the Celtics are going to win game 1 at home because quite honestly, in my humble opinion, they have to. You do not at all want to go down to a team that is deeper than you because more basketball equals more opportunities to get hurt, which means the waves of talent that's coming at you will be more lethal to you if anything like that happens. So they got to stay healthy. They have got to stay healthy. So that's what I say about the Boston Celtics. They'll take tonight's game. The next matchup, of course, we talked about is the Knicks and the Cavaliers. And this is a matchup I got the Knicks winning because, again, same thing. Emphasis on depth, as you guys already know. In the first game situation, though, with Julius Randle fresh off injury, he ain't played in several weeks, and I know how Juju is. He takes from the team sometimes, especially when he's not himself. He's the Trae Young of the Knicks. If he can just get out of his way, ego stuff, fall in line as a player on the Knicks instead of being Juju in the Knicks, the Knicks have a chance to win the West, the East, in my opinion. They got a chance. They got a legitimate chance. I know nobody sees that but me, but I see it. They're deeper than most, just like Atlanta. And with a series like the Cavaliers in the first round, the Cavaliers only play like 7 to 8 guys. The back of their bench isn't even useful to them. They can't afford to get no China foul trouble. They can't afford to have Donovan Mitchell off the floor for 10 minutes. You know, that's the kind of thing with the Cavaliers. They're optical illusion because they have such an imposing front court and such amazing guards till you actually think that that's a really good team. But they're sort of like Phoenix. Just 4 guys. That's about it. After that, they don't really have anything. It's 4 people that are going to knock you down with the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's Mobley, Allen, Garland, and Donovan. After that, they're rather average. So that's my problem with them. I don't see that problem in New York. I see about 11, 12 people I trust playing in regular rotation in New York. And I just think they're going to come at them in waves. And they're probably going to knock off Cleveland in about 6 games. So I don't know that they can win this game with Juju fresh off injury. I'm going to say the Cavaliers get tonight's game, and Cavaliers will draw first blood with home court. But I think the Knicks going to win a lot after that. I just think the Knicks are a better team, and they're going to prove it. So that's what I think of that series. Even though Donovan Mitchell is a wild card, he can go for 75 and change everything. But you know, Mobley and Allen, look, like I said, the front court is real. That's a real front court. Don't think I'm not in a belief that they can do major damage. It's just that they need to be deeper in the field with more depth. That's it. Anybody with a top-heavy team with no depth is getting pushed around in my bracket. That's just how that goes. And Cavaliers are one of the more shallow teams, in my opinion. So, no chance in my mind they out of here. Knicks take them in 6. But they'll get the game tonight at home. And the last game is Sacramento, Golden State. In the series that I continue to flip-flop on, even though I haven't changed my pick, I say Golden State will win the series. But at this point, I don't know that they can win the series at all. I don't know that Golden State can win the series at all. For one, it starts in Sacramento. And while that's wonderful for both teams because they don't have to travel, with Sacramento being like 20 miles away from San Francisco, at the end of the day, Golden State is not a better team. They haven't been all year, and they ain't won on the road. They barely won like 6 games on the road all season long. They're not a good road team. I don't know that they're not a little better than they have been because they started using some players that they should have been using the whole time now, like Moody and Baldwin, starting to get some playing time. Gary's healthy. Wiggins should be back for the series. So all of those pieces are great. But what type of shape are they in? How's the continuity between them? What's the adjustment like for players who are going to have to move around in their minutes? Roster rotations. DiVincenzo has a new role in the playoffs than he did throughout the regular season. All of this stuff makes for a bad situation for the Golden State Warriors, who don't have that type of shakeup over there in Sacramento. Everybody's playing the same position. And as I've told everybody, the Sacramento Kings are one of the deepest teams, if not the deepest team in the entire league. They use players on top of players, send people to their G League, send people back, and their bench stays healthy because of it. Their starters have the same roles always, but that bench gets shifted around and flushed around in such a way to keep the team healthy at all times. So I think they're the healthiest team and maybe the deepest team in the West, and because of it, I don't know that the Golden State Warriors can necessarily beat them, even though experience and the lack of travel should make for more rest for older players on the Golden State side, which I think really is a big deal. And the Golden State ain't got to get on the plane at all in this series. That's a huge deal. But at the end of the day, it's hard to buy talent being more so on the Sacramento side and Golden State still winning the series because of experience. I don't know that experience holds the same weight when you talk about depth and the waves of units that are coming at 7 and 8 guys. I keep telling you, you're going to get worn down. Now, maybe not in the first round, though. But that first round, if you get hit in the mouth and you're only running 8 players, that next round you're probably going to get knocked out. So that's how I predict this going for just about everybody who's shallow, who don't have more than like 7 to 8 players that they play in regular rotation all season long. It just ain't going to work. You would better have a nice crop of rotational bench players that can really do something. So I look at the Sacramento Kings and I know they have that. They have bench. They have back of the bench guys. They got G League guys. They got everybody. And a lot of them are centers. So if for some reason Golden State starts getting worn down with Draymond Green, Kuminga maybe gets in foul trouble, something like that, they got so many bigs that they can throw at you. So many that they will always remain fresh in the front court. Golden State, the Sacramento Kings, always. The Cadas, Lynn, Holmes, Sabonis, Metu. It just goes on forever, man. They have centers, and that is a problem for the Golden State Warriors. And then you look at the forwards, Harrison Barnes, ex-Golden State Warrior. Keegan Murray, fantastic shooting Rookie of the Year candidate. Obviously De'Aaron Fox, obviously Sabonis, obviously Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter, Davis. It just goes on for a long time with the Sacramento King team. Okpala. They just have a lot of talent. And you're going to have to understand that the Golden State Warriors, they do, but they got a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again. That's the problem with the Golden State Warriors. They got the same player a lot of the time. Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, Patrick Baldwin, Moses Moody, they all do the same thing. They literally all do the same thing. And then you got Wiggins, who's supposed to be tasked with defending people bigger than him. I don't know if that's going to work this year with him being away from the game for so long. And then you got to deal with just other aspects. Is Klay going to be healthy? How healthy is he going to stay? He looks great right now, but he's long in the tooth and he's had a lot of injuries. Draymond Green, where is he at? I just don't know. You have to inform me if he's still playing like Great Dre, or if he's looking like a lesser version. He's going to have to be his best self. Kuminga, is he ready to take on defensive roles? This is his first real playoffs with a first real role. Is he ready to be that star level player that they're probably going to need him to be against real good defensive forwards that the Sacramento Kings are going to bring at him? Maybe. But can you guarantee Sabonis ain't getting a triple-double in that game? I can't. Can you guarantee Malik Monk won't hit 5 threes in that game? I can't. Huerter, same thing. And then I look at Sacramento and I say they got a wild card piece that Golden State doesn't have in their back pocket. Although you may say Gary Payton is this piece, but I know he's not. Davion Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's doppelganger. Davion Mitchell, arguably one of the best perimeter defensive players in basketball. He's going to be a problem for the Golden State Warriors because they're going to slap him on a Jordan Poole. They're going to slap him on Steph Curry. They're going to slap him on some other players as well. And he's going to lock them down. He's going to lock them down. I know people don't see that coming. They're laughing at me when I say he's going to lock down Steph Curry. Nobody locks down Steph Curry. But I'm telling you, if you put him on Jordan Poole probably going 3 for 12. That player is going to be a problem for anybody the Kings see. I'm tell you right now, because the Kings are not a good defensive team. Everybody knows they don't play defense as a team. But if you look at Davion Mitchell, I'll tell you, find me a better perimeter defensive player in the league. You'll find a couple. Drew Holiday there, Marcus Smart over there. You understand what I'm saying? That's what it is. He's in a very, very small crop of elite point guard defenders. And the problem is that it's a quote-unquote optical illusion again, because he was drafted 6 overall 2 years ago, has not bust at all, but it's just behind De'Aaron Fox. So if for some reason he happens to start, for any reason at all, and he develops into something just as good as De'Aaron Fox or better than De'Aaron Fox, it shouldn't shock anybody. That's what I'm telling you. If he plays well and locks this series down or does some incredibly great stuff, it shouldn't shock anybody, because that's who he was drafted to be, and he hasn't fallen off. He's just in a weird role. So I look at him. I look at Keegan Murray. I look at Harrison Barnes. I look at Fox, who's capable of playing some defense, even though he's more of an offensive player in the pros. We've seen him play great defense in college. I look at Sabonis, who's also known as a defender, offensive rebounder, physical player. They got the physical players to match him in Golden State. They do. With Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, Kuminga, they should be able to match some of what Sabonis does. But do you have his backups in mind? All the Metus and Lins and all those. Are you ready for that center position? The Golden State Warriors, I don't know that they have enough centers for that. They let Wiseman go. That was something they shouldn't have did based on what it is they're going to be seeing in this field. You need Wiseman for these playoffs, especially as healthy as he looked for the Detroit Pistons in the season. This was not the time to let him off your roster and you're trying to win a championship. Absolutely not. Golden State made some mistakes. They made some mistakes, and I think it's going to cost them in this playoffs. So that's what I'm here to tell you. Do I think Sacramento's going to win the first game? Yes. Yes, Sacramento's going to draw first blood in this series. Why? Because Golden State's been a bad road team all season long. All season long, they've been a bad road team. I ain't got no reason to believe that they're going to go into Sacramento tonight in the first game of the series with the beam ready to be pressed, and they're going to go in there and blow them out. I just don't see it. Now, granted, it could very well happen because you're dealing with Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry, so they very well may sweep this series by hitting a bunch of threes all night long, but that's what it's going to take because they're not getting inside. Wiggins is not ready to defend all those guys yet, I don't think. Gary Payton is not in the type of shape he needs to be to defend all those guys yet in a 7-game series. 1 game, yeah, they're going to get some stops. 2 games, yeah, they're going to get some stops. Where they going to be in Game 6? Where they going to be in a Game 7? And the fact of the matter is, just like they don't have to travel, Sac don't have to travel either. So they're just as rested as you are, younger talent. Sac's going to take the first game. Golden State will take the series because I'm sticking to my pick. But I'm telling you, if for some reason Golden State runs into any issues, for some reason they have to remove anybody from the floor at all, I think Sacramento's going to take the series. They need everybody. Golden State does. Everyone. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't think Golden State's too old to win, but I do think they're running into a young, sharp team. And you look at Sacramento, do they have anybody over 35? I mean, 30, period. I think Harrison Barnes is probably the oldest person on the team. Probably Dellavedova, who doesn't get any minutes, who also can lock you up. You know what I mean? As we know. So Sacramento has a more talented team than Golden State. They really do. De'Aaron Fox is one of the most clutch players in basketball who's going to dribble, penetrate, and run past whoever's in front of him, regardless if you're a good defender or a bad one. That's what I know about De'Aaron Fox. If he has a huge series, this thing can go a lot of different ways. The Sacramento Kings way, that is. So, yeah, man, I don't know, man. Golden State got themselves a matchup here. They found themselves a matchup because for every 3 you can hit, Monk and Herter can hit those same shots. They're not better shooters, but they're good enough to hit the same shots you're hitting. They're good enough to be hotter than you on any given night, and that is dangerous in and of itself with those type of shooting. On the other side of Golden State, your trump card in Golden State is shooting the ball, and I'm telling you, Sacramento's a better scoring team than they are this year. So, I don't know, man. I'm going to stick to my picks because integrity means a lot to me, but I see something different. I just simply see something different. And matchups matter. Depth matters. So that's what I got to say, man. That's my rundown of the first 4 games of these playoffs. I don't think I'll do this every day. I probably won't. But just for this particular day, I figured I'd do it since we are starting the playoffs in the way that we are. And, you know, we got a good playoffs ahead. Of course, the officials are going to have a lot to do with that. We know the season has been funny for that all season long, so I wouldn't be surprised if the championship is decided on a free throw, a technical free throw, or something weird. Would not shock me. And it shouldn't shock any of you. I'm putting it out there. Be prepared for the officials to be very much involved in these playoffs. So that's what I'm going to leave you guys with, man. Everybody stay healthy. Enjoy the playoffs today. And tomorrow, my team plays tomorrow. So, you know, I'm going to have a rundown of everything that comes with that tomorrow at 12:30. And that's what I got to say, man. Good luck to everybody. Stay healthy. BDL44. Thank you all for watching. Out.